And we're live.
What?
Hey,
We're
welcome
live.
everyone.
We're live.
Welcome
Well,
to Hobby Vomit.
if anybody gets tired doing this, you can blame me. My bad, guys. My audio
What?
is acting up.
Oh. I was like, what are you talking about?
Did you slip something into my water,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
unbeknownst to
dude.
me?
Putting on your sleepy
Again,
bedtime
I've
voice.
been sending nootropic coffee to these guys all week. Um,
All right, great way to start. Welcome everyone. We are excited to have you back. I am Josh or Jonesy. I don't know which way to point.
Yeah. Top. On the top, we got not me.
I got Ian.
Yeah. And I'm
I'm
Matt.
officially not Matt. That's my new name.
That's right. I'm Matt. Hello. Welcome back. We're doing great.
All right. So, if you haven't joined us on this series yet, this is a part two to the Sun Eater series for book one, Empire of Silence. So, if you haven't watched part one, take an opportunity to watch that, come back and join us. Or if you just want to randomly join in and listen to part two, you're welcome. This will be a majority spoiler discussion for this part. And we are discussing chapters 22 to 44. Yeah, I guess I will pass it over to Ian to transition us to the next part.
Sure.
Yeah, and so I just want to go let everybody know that if you do need to catch up, please feel free. This video will be here, unless of course the Chantry finds out about us. And so if we disappear, that's that. You know what happened. But yeah,
I
but it's
like it.
overall, yeah, it's overall been really, really good. So I just want to go ahead and also let people know as well. We'll at the end of every video, we'll announce what chapters we're doing next. Empire of Silence doesn't have like clear part breaks, so we tried our best to sort of divvy it up into fourths. I actually feel like it's been pretty good so far.
Ooh,
I mean, the
I
first
was
one ended like
I was
perfectly.
I was one chapter off for this one. I was
Mm-hmm.
telling
Yeah,
Matt.
this one it felt like I was gonna say that too. I was like, it could have been like a chapter early, but even so, I mean, it's still good.
Yeah. We're going to need you to do better for the
Um,
next part, Jonesy.
Yeah.
So
So
Yeah,
predict a
now,
little bit better.
now that you've all read up to chapter 44, I want you to just forget the last chapter. I'm just kidding. But yeah, and so as always, what we kind of generally do is we're going to go ahead and quickly sort of review what we know so far, and then we're going to do like a high level overview of this part, and then we're going to jump into it. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Matt, you want to do
Yeah.
the overview of the last part?
Yes, I would. So, what did we read in part one? So, in part one, I'm just going to read exactly what we had for last time. Hadrian gains a purpose and leaves/escapes home. So, yeah, that's really that's kind of what we read in the first part. And then what did we read in this part? I've got a little more meat this time. So, basically, Hadrian, here, I'm just going to do my bullet points. Hadrian finds love in the streets of Emesh. Hadrian finds a new family in the Colosso on Emesh. Hadrian encounters a Cielson for the first time. Hadrian starts over with a new job again. And then all
wow.
the while, Hadrian attempts to find a way off of Emesh. So, yeah.
Was that Matt AI or actual AI?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold on,
Greetings, fellow
but Matt, you
humans.
said he found a new job and stuff. Was that also on Emesh? I wasn't
On
clear.
Emesh. Sorry, yeah. On Emesh. But yeah, basically, this kind of felt like, it could just be because we broke it into parts. If I were just naturally reading it, maybe it wouldn't feel so much like that. But it really did feel like starting a book again, where it's just like we got a bunch of stuff, and now it almost felt like starting over again with a new set of characters, a new location, and so on. And we can talk about later if we liked that or not.
Yeah, very
But
much. Yeah, part
yeah,
one and part two kind of feel like prequel. Like,
part 1A, part
yeah,
1B.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, so what we'll do in this video series before we get into the spoiler discussion, we'll just check in on our predictions that we made at the end of the last video and see if we were right, wrong, or hasn't happened yet for those. So real quick, I'll just go ahead and start with mine. The biggest thing that we all talked about was what we thought would happen or how long we think maybe it will have been when he wakes up from cryo, when Hadrian wakes up. So I thought the world would be very, very different when Hadrian wakes up from cryo. No. Not really. maybe for him, I
Different for
guess.
him.
He
Yeah.
is on a different place, different spot than he thought he would be. I thought that maybe Lady Liliana and Kyra either get caught and or punished and or killed. That hasn't happened yet, so we don't know. We see a Cielson very soon. I got that one right. Not that,
Kind of
that
soon.
was a softball. It was a softball. And then the Cielson aren't really bad, just alien. Another softball. Hasn't really happened yet, but I think just based off of Hadrian, the
Yeah,
narrator,
his
telling
reaction.
us that he becomes like a fighter for the Cielson, kind of, probably right, but not a great prediction. But how about you guys? Was it any recap of your predictions?
I
Oh, cut off for a second. Oh no.
so sorry. I'm good, right? Can you hear me?
Yep, now I can hear
Hmm?
you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm poorly prepared for this part. I didn't write down or make note of that, so I'm going to do better next time for you viewers and for my fellow friends here. But I do recall, I don't remember what I specifically said, but I think the thing that stood out to me the most that maybe Ian brought up was how many years would actually pass. I think you may have said that it would have been more than what he anticipated for his travel, which I think was between 11 to 13 years, depending on the path they took. Um, that's what I remember. So I'm not taking credit for that, but I will say that though I remember talking about it, it got me excited to read the next part. So I'm excited to talk predictions again at the end of this one.
Nice. Anything for you, Ian?
Yeah. Yeah, and so that was pretty much the main one. A lot of my predictions were pretty much just like already told to us from the author, so it's kind of softballing. I really didn't like. I think I had some contrary predictions. I really didn't think that we would see some of those characters that we saw back on Delos, but I was really, I think kind of like you, I was really thinking that there might be a spin here where we spend more time with the crew. And I was really like, I mean, I was kind of hoping for like almost like a Firefly situation, I thought that would have been kind of cool, maybe
Mm.
like a little Sun Eater Guardians of the Galaxy or something. And yeah, we didn't really get that. I did not think that he was going to make it to Gross.
Mm-hmm.
But I had that last kind of thing at the end where I was like, if it's not that he's still with the ship, I wonder if it's just gonna be one of those situations where he wakes up like way too late. Now I expected it might be even later than what it was, it being 35 years, but
Yeah.
that was still pretty cool to see at that time that there was that kind of significant jump in time. But at the same time, it's also like still sort of in the ballpark that's like in a way normal for them. So we'll get to talk about that more as we move on. But otherwise, my predictions were pretty flat in terms of what we would see. I didn't really know what it would. I thought we'd spend more time like off planet, and we just sort of wake up on planet. So
Yeah. I think I was leaning, I can't remember, but I think I was leaning that he would wake up prior to the 13 years. Like, I thought maybe it was going to be on like an abrupt, it got cut short.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember you talking about that.
Yeah, which, we'll talk more about the time jump here as we get to it. But yeah, I think we're ready to jump into spoilers, and we're just going to kind of talk about what happens in this part. So if you've not read, I mean, we kind of just spoiled some stuff, but if you've not read it, go read it, or just welcome to the spoiler section where we are going to talk spoilers about chapter 22 or 23, 22 through 44. Does anyone
got it.
want to kick it off with? I mean, I'm also. I guess let me kick it off. Let me kick it off because I did make a point to talk about how excited I was to spend time with the crew that we met at the end of part 1. I loved the crew. I already forget their names, but I was like so excited, and then gone, possibly gone forever. Yeah, it feels like
I think
probably
I told you the
gone
other day
forever.
I deemed this the Matt curse.
Yeah. Yeah, it happened during the Devils too. Yeah, you were saying with the Eusebius or whatever his name was. Oh, sorry, I mean that's not a spoiler, but yeah, apparently any character I like and I'm excited to see again, we never see them again. So
And have some
Oh, I'm
short-term predictions for
yeah, exactly.
Dunzo.
Yep, gone. So I mean, not a dis. I mean, I feel neutral towards it, but I will say I wasn't expecting it. I thought we had established those characters enough that maybe we would. And I think that's part of the strength of that. It feels real. That could really happen, and it's not like he. I don't know. I think some other authors would just not spend time developing those characters. When in real life, just a couple sentences and stuff, you could kind of get to know a character. So I don't have a problem with that at all. Just took me by surprise that we spent literally zero time with them, and then we had to learn a whole bunch of new people for this. We had to learn a new planet, not a new culture. I feel like the culture was pretty similar, just being under the Empire, but a whole new crew, not crew, but just friends and family and lovers and all that. And so I will say in the beginning, especially when we first meet and forgive me, I think I'm the only one not doing the audiobook, but so you guys will have to correct me if I say things wrong. But the Myrmidons,
Yeah.
Myrmidons. Yeah, I think when we first met them, I was like, wow, these are a lot of names, but like, I don't know. I didn't really feel like I needed to remember them that well because I didn't know if we were just going to get the crew again. Which, who knows? It almost, I think after reading this part, it feels like we might just be doing something similar again. And we can talk maybe a little bit more about that when we get to predictions and stuff, what we think going forward. But my first question to you guys is, what did you think about Kat? Did you like Kat? Did you like the storyline with Kat? Yeah.
I'm going to start it off. Yeah, I mean, I think Kat was actually, in many ways, one of the more interesting characters. Now, I will go ahead and sort of forewarn that throughout this, I may have some more of the controversial takes as far as this particular section goes.
Yeah, we didn't
but
start with that. Sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt you, but normally we do start with general thoughts. Did you like it? Just very quickly, did you like it? Ian, the hater.
I'm pretty lukewarm on this one. Yeah.
Okay.
I really enjoyed part one. I'm very lukewarm on part two.
Okay.
But I did think that Kat was one of the more interesting characters. I especially like the interactions between Kat and Hade. But I think more so what made Kat especially interesting character for this book is I feel like for this part is I feel like out of all the characters, like granted this is in hindsight, but for all the characters, I think she was the one that was most humanizing and also made the planet and the whole plight of what these guys have to deal with as being a sort of under the foot or under the boot heel of the Empire. Like it helped us as readers to empathize a lot more with them, and it definitely also kind of drew this stark contrast between Adrian as a as a Palpatine. I'm sorry, Palantine. I'm just kidding, but yeah, but like as someone who's an Order of the Noble Class, I think her whole story is kind of what made him seem like a fish out of water. Like there's this scene where he is staying with her after she gets really sick, and kind of talking about the struggles there, where it's just like you get this contrast of she's 19, she's actually 18, and passing away due to this rot, and he is a few years older and will never suffer that.
Yeah.
Cannot. And so I thought she was a very interesting character, and she was not one dimensional like many of the characters were in this particular part. So I enjoyed her the most, I think, of all the characters in this book. This part, sorry.
How about you, Jonesy? Well, first of all, do you want to kick us off with let us know, did you like the part?
Yes. Two things. First, love the October themed mug.
Oh, thank
It's
you.
beautiful.
Mhm.
And second,
little
reading
ghost.
instead of listening to the book, were you reading it as Had or as Hade?
I read it as Hade just because,
Okay.
I mean, Had just
Genius.
doesn't make any sense. But
I feel like
is it?
Had would have been something I do, not something you two sophisticated
Well, at first
gentlemen
I
would
did.
do.
I was like, how? I mean, how would they say it? It's got to be a nickname for his nickname. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a nickname.
Yeah. So overall thoughts. I don't feel like I had anything that immediately jumps out to me as like, oh, I didn't enjoy this. I'm continuing to enjoy the journey of the book, so I appreciated it. There were parts that stood out more to me. I feel like there was a couple more like I don't know what you call it, quotes or dialogue from people that really stood out to me in the section that I really enjoyed that I kind of marked and made note of. And then to Cat, yeah, I really enjoyed Cat. Um, Something that Ian didn't mention, but I just kind of thought of when he was talking about Cat, is one of the scenes where they're baking in the street together. I thought was really interesting dynamic. So you get the one that Ian talked about where she's dying from the disease that Hadrian won't. But I also thought it was really interesting that they mention her crooked teeth sometimes, kind of focusing on that. I think it's to kind of paint that picture of like, she's living on the streets. He's this royal figure that happens to find himself there. But I thought it was really interesting that she was earning more money than him and that it was like something that he thought of. I thought it was another like really interesting depiction of he's just in this completely different world. It doesn't matter what his status is, just in this moment to survive. Like she's doing something that he's not to be able to get more of that. And I don't know. I don't know the overall point I'm making. I just thought it was really interesting, like depiction of both their different worlds and how she's been able to adapt to survive. But I also feel like just overall, I think she was really important for his character development of just seeing what it's like to survive like that, and would he have survived and made it if she hadn't extended that act of reaching out and helping him in that moment. I think that's something to consider too.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think she definitely humbles him and humanizes him for sure. I agree. I think it's an important part. I really like Cat as well, and I did like the part as well. I don't know if I liked it quite as much as part one, but I enjoyed it. I had a good time throughout the entirety of it. My biggest problem with Cat: stop doing underage romances. I don't care. I don't care. There's no
Yeah.
excuse for it. I don't care. Like, tell me this. What about this story and their relationship would change if she were 21 and he were 20 and he were if she was of age? Nothing. Nothing. So why? I don't get it. I mean, that just stood out to me of just like I'm just sick of it. It happens in it's happened in Malazan too, and like I just nothing's gonna make me root against a character more than doing creepy shit like that. And there's also just a power dynamic between like Hadrian being a Palpatine or whatever. Which to be fair, he doesn't use that or anything. But still, I mean, like she is 16 when he meets her, and then they're together after that, and it's just like I know there's time that's passed and everything, but it just felt gross to me. I didn't like it. I like everything about their relationship except for that, because to me it's just age her up to an appropriate age. Nothing changes. Literally nothing about the story changes. So I just don't get it, and it was frustrating to me. I had to put that out there because that's also going to be just when we talk about likes and dislikes. Because like I'm just over it in fantasy and sci-fi. There's zero reason for it. I just don't get it. But so beyond that, really liked Cat. Was really I thought her death was really emotional. I was surprised that he just killed her off so quick. But I really liked it. I think it works really well for the story and yeah, she just served. I think she served an important part. I wouldn't be surprised, even in this part later on, he mentions Cat again as like a memory. And I wouldn't be surprised if he mentions Cat throughout this entire series. Like he continues to look back to her, even though I guess it was a few years they were together. Time was a little wonky during this part for me.
Yeah. I was going to
Um,
say, wasn't
He,
it like
he,
2 + 2 to 3 years? I
it's a
think they
little
were
over
within
two
that.
years that he's with Cat, and then 1 year with the Myrmidons. Well,
Okay.
I guess it's like 2.5 years because he technically didn't finish his whole year stint,
yeah,
right? But he was getting close, so
yeah,
it's like two and some change on Imesh, and then 1 year in the Coliseum.
yeah. There's some really interesting time just jumps because like I guess that's the other interesting thing about having been 35 years. It's like I guess at that point in time it's been 35 years. So we subtract a couple years because he first meets Kat when she's 16, and then we jump to where she's 18. And I can't remember how. I think he's 21 when he meets her. Standard years.
No,
He's not.
no, he's like 19.
He's
He's like
19.
19, almost 20.
Okay, then he's 21. Okay, after we
He's-
jumped to 2 years.
Yep.
Okay, but yeah, I mean, I really liked Kat. I like their
21,
21.
if we
yeah.
don't count as frozen years.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think they're. I think Christopher Ruocchio does some really great things with like their adventure or whatever we want to call it into the factory when we first meet the Umand. What do they say how do they call them? Umand,
I think
Umanda.
it was pretty close.
Yeah.
Again, I think this scene could have been something like this big old heist scene, and we spent a lot of time with them getting the fish, but instead we get to see what's happening, kind of like the just abusive nature of the humans or Imeshi. I don't know if they're Imeshi or whatever they want to call them towards the human in like almost like a slave like manner, and then they jump down and get the fish. And it's like we got so much important stuff that we didn't need to spend time with like them sneaking around guards endlessly or anything like that. And the same is true as just the Colosseum. I mean, I think that's one of my biggest pros of this part was a lot of the action. There was certainly some action, but some of it was just like, I'm glad we got those time jumps. Like, it's just like, oh, and then 8 months later, we've gone through all these Colosseum trials and stuff. And, like, he very much could have drawn this out. This whole book could have been Hadrian in the Colosseum over and over and over and over and over, but I'm glad it wasn't. I still feel like I got what I needed to get out of my time with the people in the Colosseum. So I guess moving on from Kat, unless anyone has anything else to say about Kat, or we could talk about that scene, or we talk about just Hadrian on the streets, because that's really where it starts. It's he wakes up and gets kind of roughed up a bit. By some.
Maybe we should talk a little about that setup too, because that kind of makes obviously has a pretty significant impact.
Yeah.
Right. And so we have this very like jarring entrance for this, where we come off this huge time jump. He wakes up basically in a dumpster, being brought brought back to life, and taken in by these people who have sort of made their own enterprise out of rescuing people dumped in these dumpsters, and then either claiming some goods off of them, or claiming some money from their families, or getting some some debts from them for taking care of them. And because this has become a sort of a consistent thing now, that people will take money to transport individuals across the galaxy, but then those individuals need to go into cryo because it's going to be super long. So then they rob them and they dump them on a planet and then they leave. And we don't know for sure if that's what's happened with Hadrian, but there's a very short piece of dialogue that kind of gives us some insight into what might have happened, which is that it's more likely that their ship was like impounded or something to that effect, and then sold off, and the cargo is still there, and Hadrian was amongst the cargo, and then he got dumped because the new owners don't want to deal with this, right? And there's a sort of like little piece of dialogue where that comes up, but to me that was like the only story that makes sense because it's been like so many years.
Do you, both of you, and I'll answer. What do you think? You think that's true? Where are you leaning?
Yeah, I mean, for me right now, I don't think the captain betrayed him, just because it's been so long.
Yeah. Do you think we'll see him again?
At this point, unlikely.
Okay. How about you, Jonesy?
I'm torn. I'm leaning more towards they plan to rob him, just because they place so much emphasis on him taking off the ring before he went into cryo. When you're first in that moment, I was like, oh yeah, like they're probably right. It probably will damage him. And then I think, didn't we get some sort of dialogue about his finger maybe being a little bit impacted or something? But
yeah, I think
it feels more.
It's pretty burned.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem like it was something like he's permanently like deformed now. Like I can't believe he did it. So it feels me. I'm leaning more towards yeah. They were just planning on taking that and robbing him and getting as many cryo people as they could.
Hmm. I'm the optimist. I think they didn't plan on robbing him, and I think we will see them again.
Okay.
We probably won't because I think we will, but I think the interesting thing is like just where they right. How did we find them? We found them through the Wong Hopper Consortium people, because his mom, Hadrian's mom, is like sleeping with the lady who's in charge of that. So I think there's some trust there. I don't think she would recommend someone that would do that probably. And then the connection of we meet in this part Luther, the husband of the Count, who is also from the Wong Hopper Consortium. Some attachment there or relation there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It just seems like it would be if you were gonna write. It just seems like the paper trail would be too easy to follow. Of like, we would know if they robbed him, and left him for dead. But maybe not. So yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping that I just like them. I want to see them again,
Yeah.
even if it is even if it is in a bad way. Like I just thought they were interesting characters. So
Yeah. If we don't hear from them, it is interesting. It'll be interesting me to know whether there's one of those like short stories or
yeah.
extra books that's about that. And if not, then yeah, it seems like a very interesting side story that we could know about background on them, what happened, all of that.
Yeah, I think it would be cool. I'm also in the camp where like if we never find out, I think that's totally okay too. Shit happens,
Yeah.
and that's real. Hadrian doesn't need to find out every little ounce of everything. I think that's realistic. But yeah. So yeah, sorry to continue where you're at, Ian, with him
Yeah.
getting dumped.
Yeah, well, I don't think we should dismiss the possibility that this was planned, like that they weren't trying to rob him, but like this was the plan all along, that he would never was to make it to Two Crows. But that it doesn't necessarily mean that the plan was for him to get dumped in a dumpster on
Sure.
Imash, but like being in that area, it might have been the plan, right? Like for him to basically get in with another noble family or something that had better ties and could keep him protected and give him opportunity. That like because his mom may not want him to be a scholiast, right? As much as she doesn't want him to go to join the chantry, she
She's
might not want him to
awfully
be a scholiast.
convincing
Yeah,
to me.
like that's well. I mean, you mean like you were convinced that that was her motive?
I just was convinced that she cared about her son and she wanted her son to be happy doing what he wanted to do.
Mm.
I was convinced in that way.
Yeah. Does it? Yeah, and it
She's,
also doesn't
she's
necessarily mean
very
that like it was
convincing.
her plan, right? Because it could have been like Wong Hopper Consortium's plan, or So I don't think.
I could
It
see
was,
that more so of like the lady
Yep.
that the mom is sleeping with in charge of the Wong Hopper Consortium, them having an ulterior motive. I could buy
Yep.
into that. Yeah.
So, but he ultimately we kind of get our first sort of challenge, so to speak, which is that he has no idea where time it is, no idea where it is, but he knows he's being taken care of, and he's very thankful for that. But he cannot, under any circumstance, have his blood taken
Mhm.
because now he knows that he's run away, and that if people take his blood, then it's going to pop on this like galactic network, and the people are going to be able to hunt him down. And now he is not just a runaway, but also he's abandoned his assignment to the Chantry, and so that could also come with like an inquisition. So we are sort of meant to understand that not only would his father be super pissed and he could potentially be executed, that he might even be hunted down by like inquisitors for being here. So he cannot under any circumstance, and because of that, he constantly runs away from people. He abandons this lady and her young daughter. Not sure if it's an adopted daughter or otherwise, but basically her young daughter. Even though they could have possibly received payment, he abandons them anyway. And as far as we know, hasn't really done anything to ever pay back that debt. He turns to theft and a life of crime in order to support himself because, as we sort of find out, basically everything requires some kind of blood test. Mostly just because they want to check for diseases and things like that, but it's just sort of standard protocol. And so he really can't do anything except steal unless he wants to risk exposure. Now, when he does come to, he's got nothing. He doesn't have Gibson's letter. He doesn't have his 20,000 marks. He doesn't have his ring. And so ultimately, all he knows how to do is just basically grab whatever clothes he can and walk over to the docks in hopes that he can find the ship or find some of his stuff. Ultimately, this gets him into several different confrontations with many different people and created some sort of not lasting rivalries, but in his mind, lasting rivalries as he gets sort of beaten up and treated terribly because everyone, of course, thinks that he's just pretending to be of a more noble class than he actually is. Because even though he can talk a certain way and walk a certain way, he doesn't dress a certain way anymore. He doesn't look a certain way, and his his hair and his presentation and his skin color doesn't really match the nobility of Amesh, as we sort of find out. And so ultimately, people sort of treat him terribly and discard him. He does manage to find his ring back after nearly getting killed by a bunch of dock workers, only because, and this is why I also like with the ring. I'm not sure. The ring, having someone's ring is like basically a death sentence. Is what it seems like. You
For the
you can never
person
use.
that's like stolen it or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, because like once people realize what it is, they become extremely afraid of it because of what it represents. And like, you can basically never sell it because anybody who recognizes what it is would immediately know that it would attract like inquisitors.
Yeah.
Who would hunt you down for having that ring. And we saw that with the bandits in part 1. As soon as they grabbed the ring and they saw it, they're like, "Well, we're effed. Like, we can't take it. We can't do anything now because, like, you know." Yeah, and that's sort of what leads us up to him meeting Kat and him going on this sort of adventure on a mesh, and then ultimately she gets stricken with disease and all of this, right? But yeah, so it's kind of an interesting setup where we're sort of we have no idea what time it is, no idea where in the galaxy we are. Right, that's another important one. He never learned about a mesh. It's like basically the bum of the galaxy, as far as we know.
He does know that it's somewhere under the cloak of the Empire, though, because the Chantry is there. He does recognize that stuff.
And he has some suspicions about where it is. He does mention like because they talked about like beyond the veil, I think. Because at one point I was like, "Why are they talking about the pale?" But I think there's like a set of stars or something like that he like vaguely knows about where a mesh might be. But yes, it is still under the reach of the Empire for sure. But it's like a backwater basically as far as we know. But now he's like sort of this place he doesn't know anything about it. With these people that he doesn't know anything about their culture other than just that they live under the thumb of the Empire. And he can't do honest work because he can't have his blood taken, and so he's got to figure out how to survive. And for the real first time in his life, he's got to figure out how to survive, sort of on his own, with his own powers and his own wit. And it quite nearly doesn't go so well.
Yeah, he's not very good at it.
No, he's not very good at it all. But sort of, our character then begins to meet other characters and starts to begin to kind of build his own family and survive. So, ultimately brings us up to Kat, and then everything on after that.
And notably, she saves him too. Saves him, but he's like, because he's already gotten in with a bad crew essentially, where they all get arrested, and he like stabs. I think Hadrian himself stabs somebody, like the shop clerk or something like that. Oh, not fatally, but.
So I think part of that happens later.
Oh, is that that's after Kat?
After Kat. Yeah. So before Kat was
she's sick or something.
Yeah. So remember he's basically housed himself up and he's starting to collect things into a barrel. And then he has to I think he's like removing something and he accidentally knocks it off and he has to dive in for it. And then he ends up getting himself into a rut and nearly has another run with the law and kind of runs away and runs into Kat. And he's basically got like nothing at this point.
It's like raining and he's in an alley. And she's like, bro, you're going to drown down there if you don't climb up.
Yeah, exactly. But he's kind of like spiritually sort of given up at this point. Like he's tried to cling to some vestige of being able to sort of claim things for himself. And then ultimately, it all falls apart. But she kind of rejuvenates his spirit, so to speak, and it's basically like, nah, I can't leave you just to drown in an alley.
Which is just like, I mean, you immediately know what Kat's gonna be like just from that. It's just like you have nothing, and you're still willing to, you want to help others still, and just very selfless character through the entirety of it, and just I don't know, man. I thought her ending was very, very sad, and like Bree and I, when we
Yeah.
read, we'll just read a couple chapters and then. And then put it down, and then just pick it up the next day. And it was just like, all right, let's go. Here we go, Sun Eater. And then like Cat died in the first chapter, and we were like, Jesus, like, wow, we were not expecting that to happen right then. And yeah, it was sad, a big loss, but
Yeah.
um,
It was really interesting listening to that part because I don't know if you guys have you guys ever read much about like the plagues that spread across Europe or like some of the things that people went through dealing with those.
I
not
You
feel
guys
like
ever
then
like
even
studied them much?
if I've read much, I definitely have not read
Yeah,
much compared to you.
yeah.
yeah. It's really fascinating to hear the stories, but I mean, we have a few stories uh, that I've read and like cycled around just because there's a few saints that were like serving the poor and the sick like during like things like the Black Plague, for example. And there were a few stories of these characters who supposedly like they basically like went into a sick house where like people were being gathered, and that was just like what they were gonna do was just they were gonna minister, like take care of these people because they essentially like they could put their lives out there like on the line for to minister to these people and help take care of them because if anybody else would, they'd probably get sick, right, and die. And there were some people who like miraculously did not get sick. They thought they were going to get sick. But it's not a 100% chance of you getting sick. And so they were able to like help care for these people and just be able to like give them water and give them food and like cool them down and just like talk with them. Right.
Mhm.
And just like manage to not get sick during that time. But it's like a whole other experience to be there and to know you can't get sick. And
Mm.
like that, I mean, that was kind of an interesting sort of revelation in that whole moment of just like what would it and I mean that's how he frames it is like what would it be like for like everybody just to be sort of dropping like flies around you as this like plague spreads through and you just cannot get sick like because your immune system has been genetically altered to make you immune to these kinds of diseases. And so you're just already like set apart in a way and you have to just like watch these people die. You can never share in their suffering, and like even if you do things that are like are caring or generous or sacrificial to care for them, you're still not putting skin in the game,
Mhm.
right? And this and it like I think it's meant to show like really does weigh on him that he's like trying to take care of Kat, but and to know that like she's gonna pass away, but he cannot like get sick. There's this sort of this fundamental difference between them because of that, because of how they were born.
From what I recall, he never tells her either. Is that correct? Uh,
That he was like that he
of just like
specifically
who
everything
he
about.
really is.
He tells her quite a bit about his background. She knows that he can leave. She knows that he has a family. She knows that he's rich. And comes from a place of wealth and authority.
Okay,
I don't
couldn't
think I don't
remember.
think he tells her everything about why he's there.
Hmm.
But like she knows his name. She knows that he comes from essentially Delos, and things like that. So Devil's Rest, and yeah.
Well, there's a couple things that do happen before she dies that I think are worth talking about. Specifically, the run-in with Old Crow,
Mhm.
and then
Yeah.
the scene where they do break into the factory and the Umand themselves. So, uh, Jonesy, you want to anything to say on those, or you want me to take it, or Ian?
You can keep going.
Yeah, I'll talk about Old Crow. Old Crow was an interesting character for me. I mean, you love to see it. Hadrian's running for his life. He's getting chased, and he just kind of sits down at a cafe to blend in. And yeah, basically this guy plays along. He
Mhm.
sees someone, and instead of like turning him in, he's willing to go along with the pit to keep him safe. But eventually, all this leads to him saying, "Hey, if you're," I can't remember if he's saying like if you're trying to get off world, you're gonna have to buy a ship, and if you're gonna buy a ship, there's good money to be made in the Colosseum, which is kind of like
Mhm.
an aha moment for Hadrian of like, duh, like why didn't I think about it? I should go fight in the Colosseum and make some money.
Mhm.
Um, So I mean, other than that, not really a super relevant character, though. We'll talk about more in predictions. I don't think that's the last. I mean, not to jinx it, but I don't think that's the last we've seen of Old Crow, and we never saw him
now
again.
it is.
Yeah,
Now it
exactly.
is.
I've rewritten. Yeah,
Perished
all the
crow.
books are changing. The Old Crow's getting deleted. But yeah, and then the factory scene. What did you guys think of? This is really, even though we've heard of the Cielson, we've seen the homunculus, but I think we determined that these were like genetically made, the homunculi or the homunculi or whatever the plural is. But the Umand are really the first race of aliens that we've encountered in this series. I think we know that there's obviously going to be more, if not just the Cielson, but this is the very first one we see. So what did you guys think of that one, just reveal and just, yeah, seeing them for the first time or reading?
What do you think, Jonesy? What do you think about the fish tree people things?
I don't know if I had anything super insightful to see. Like it's just cool world building for me, but I guess maybe not anything too impactful happened for me to like think too much about it other than just yeah, he's not at his home anymore, and we're just gonna continue to see more and more of what's out there in this universe.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, the most shocking thing about it in that whole scene was the fact that they're torturing one of these creatures, and then ultimately they decide not to, right? And it seems like there's like Hadrian makes a point to call it out. Like, seems like one of these guys is trying to get his friend to stop. At one point, it's like, oh, maybe he's the nice guy. It's like, oh no, it's just because
That
if
will
it
get in
dies,
trouble.
it comes out of it comes out of their pay.
Yep.
You're gonna get docked pay if it dies, and so there's sort of that reminder of the sort of dystopian complex that they live in, where they find alien creatures and like, how can we put these to use?
I
I
can't
will
remember.
say
Were the
that
Uman, were they native to Emesh?
Hmm? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just referencing that, and it says that they are.
Classic
Yeah.
human
They operate like a grove.
colonization. They what?
Operate like a grove.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like
Does
if you have like a tree that's like in a grove of that same kind of tree, then like their roots, like they'll actually grow their roots together, and like the trees can actually communicate.
Yeah.
So
Sup?
yeah, communicate.
What's
No,
up,
but it's like a
bro?
proven thing. Like if you
The bro
there's this
grove.
thing where people have seen it, where like if like animals go to eat seeds that like aren't ripe enough yet, then like the other trees in the grove will respond, and like they'll make their own seeds like super bitter, or like their own leaves like super bitter. So like groves are really, like true groves, like we obviously call things groves, but like real groves are like really fascinating. They really do, like, it is like one super organism.
Yeah.
And that's how these guys are, and they communicate in this very like
It's almost like
sing
whale
song like
songs,
fashion.
right?
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
whale songs. Yeah. They just needed Dory.
Yeah.
That's what they needed, right?
Dory was dead. Dory was dead. That's who they were going to get to feed. There's a bunch
oh
of Dories
no,
in that factory.
just keep
Yeah.
swimming.
But yeah, that scene
I
is
love how we bring up a Finding Nemo joke. You're like, Dory's dead.
yeah. Yeah, it's a brutal scene. It's like they're like, I can't remember if it's like some of the weapons are lost on me. If it was like an electric whip or something or whatever, but it's like screaming basically in pain, and yeah, it's just it's frustrating to see just humans. It's very human, very human of them to be so shitty and take advantage and
Yeah.
enslave the native population. And I don't think that's the last race of aliens we'll see that have been enslaved or wronged. Or I think that's going to become a pattern, especially with what we see later on with the Cielson and just the general war with the Cielson. I think is that's a good intro. I think to what we're going to see a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the things that I'm curious about moving forward, because I will say that there are several things I like in terms of themes or in terms of like development for our characters, especially with like Hadrian in this part. Like this scene in particular is kind of one of those elements of why the part hit lukewarm for me, because like this kind of thing just becomes a sort of I don't know, like a safety net It seems like almost for Brachio, where it's just like we're gonna just keep coming back to this kind of scene again and again and again, where it's like we're gonna come back to alien being beat up on, or person being beat up on, or like insert thing here being beat up on by nobility, and then Hadrian's there and then witnessing it, and it's something else about it that's like really fascinating to Hadrian. Like, oh, it speaks a cool language, or you know what I mean? Like, and that's like really like when you think about it, like one of the biggest takeaways from this whole scene is it isn't like Hadrian being like moved by the torture of these like Xenobites. Like his biggest like response to the whole scene, more than it being tortured, is when he realizes that they're able to decipher its language.
Mm.
You know, he's like, "Oh my gosh, isn't that so cool? I need to go like see it." Which is like, I mean,
don't
like
think it's
that's
just exactly like that. I mean, to me, it's
yeah,
more
no,
of
no,
like a secondary thought than like
yeah.
him getting super stoked.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, I'm not trying to say like Hadrian's like a total asshole, but like because it like he is a kid. I mean, that's like another thing. Like, it doesn't matter that he grew up nobility. Like he's 20,
And grew
and
up in a
his
bubble.
favorite thing
Yeah.
is like languages, and like those are things that fascinate him. But also just like alien languages in the sense of novelty. He grows up in a bubble, thinking he knows everything about everything, and what he really craves is for something to be really like novel, for something to be not just novel to like him, but to like feel novel to like the Empire. And so I totally get it. But it just like, but this like whole scene, we see this exact kind of scene play out several times in just this one part. And so I understand. For this scene, the lore building is very cool. But I'm worried that this might just be like a constant tool that gets brought up again and again and again and again and again. And I would like to see us be able to move past that, so to speak, where we understand this is part of the world, but we don't need to keep putting Hadrian
Yeah.
back in these scenes because we kind of get it at this point.
I think we as readers get it, but I'm okay with that being his development of like he's not gonna get it on the first time we see it.
Yeah.
I think that's a if he was just like I think in that moment if he was like, wow, I'm gonna dedicate my life to make sure this never happens again, I'd be like, really? Wow, that was that was fast. So I'm okay with it if it becomes a natural. I mean, I think you're right. I think that is gonna be a large theme of this story. Just based off of what the narrator has told us of he's gonna join them and be their leader basically, or fight or knight or whatever you want to call it, fighting probably presumably against the nobility and the empire. So yeah, I mean I definitely think that's gonna be a theme. It's just a matter of is Christopher Ruocchio gonna beat us over the head with it before we get there or not? Like when does Hadrian join them by the end of this book, or does he join them by book 5? I think that to me, I think there's just a right way to handle it, or just not even a right and wrong way, just a way that I would prefer.
Mhm.
But it didn't really bother me in this part. It felt
This part's
natural.
great. Yeah.
That didn't sound believable at all. Yeah, this part's great. It's great.
Yeah. It's good. It's good.
I just wanted to read a very short part of what you were touching on, Matt, of how, unfortunately in this chapter, it's from this chapter where we're just seeing humans just suck. But this was just the writing, like jumping out to me on the page. Really enjoyed it. So I'm just going to read it real quick. The Chantry took that fact to heart, declaring loudly and often that the stars were ours, that they belonged to the children of Earth. They built their religion on that essential fact as much as they did on a fear of the corrupting power of technology and the pollution of the human form. We had a right to conquest, they claimed, as the ancient Spaniards had claimed when their sad ships crashed ashore. So just love the writing, but also just really stood out to me about interesting too that it's we've created this whole universe, but like pulling from history that we're familiar with as well, and just really interesting to see. Unfortunately, a theme again of pulling from that history, using it to twist and justify like conquering outside of Earth. So I just thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, the Chantry sucks. They suck. Like they're I mean, He's not holding back. They're evil.
Yeah.
Before I think when Hadrian is being sent to join the Chantry, we're like, all right, he doesn't want to join them. They do seem like they kind of suck a little bit, but like this part with them, I think when like Kat and Hadrian are like basically begging outside of the temple, that was a memorable scene for me with the Chantry sucking. And then we meet Gilliam Vass or whatever the chanter. He sucks. Like they all suck. They're just which Ian, you are a resident Catholic religious person. I mean, right? This is like a Christopher Ruocchio's evolution of religion, which I think is. I mean, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but I did find it interesting that how religion survives. Right, it can survive and evolve, and it seemingly all of the good parts of it are kind of now absent in this world, in this future.
Yeah, and this is like one of the themes that we see in Dune as well. And there's also like you'll see it in a lot of sci-fi as well. It's sort of a great way to set up a dystopian universe because and you guys will probably resonate with this as well from watching things like The Exorcist or other things like that. It's just like there's a way where even if you're not religious, that if religious tones are used a certain way, it just like it's like spiders on your skin. Like you can almost feel it. And that's one of the things that like I mean sci-fi writers, I mean good and bad, but especially good ones like really tap into is that there's just a sixth sense that people have for when things are being used in a very disturbing way, like almost like a sacrilegious way. And I think like this evolution is very interesting. I mean, it makes sense, right? Like I think fundamentally, one of the things we see from human history is we don't really know how to justify when technology and advancement collides with like non-advanced cultures. Like we just don't know how to deal with that. And it makes sense that they're going to form this whole like religion to basically do their sort of like heavenly cause of like this is why, and they needs to be grounded in something bigger than themselves, right? Like we were commissioned by the earth to go out to the stars and like find a new home.
Earth Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. Sort of like this Earth Jesus style of character, but there's a lot of things that are like absent in this presentation of religion and that like and so because of those absences, these voids, right? Religion just sort of becomes a vacuum of power, and that's like the most like that's the thing where it becomes like the most like spiders on your skin, like the most heartbreaking, and is when like religion is a vacuum for power, then it's always just everybody is trying to figure out their way to claw into that. And that's I think it's like really what's twisting this world is that everybody is trying to get a piece of that, that piece of that power, piece of that influence. And in particular with the Chantry, like they're the most threatening force of all, because they have single-handedly taken control of technology, genetics, and moral authority, right, in this land. And so, and all for the sake of just power, right? That's it. It's just for the sake of their own power. We get the genetic thing later, but you brought up like Vass, and like he's the guy who teaches us that lesson because he's not supposed to exist. He's not supposed to be alive.
Yep.
And like one of the things we find out is like we found out the reason. I know I'm jumping farther ahead in the chapters, but this is one of my favorite things for the lore for this part. Was we found out why these people of nobility are born from genetic chambers. Or from testing tubes, basically. And at first, it was sort of presented by Hadrian as like, well, my mother and father just didn't really like being around each other, so that's why. But like, actually, no, all members of the noble houses have to be born from these distilleries, if you will. I know I'm going to keep changing the term, but because if their genetics are so messed up that if they try to have children naturally, they'll be completely defective. And this is like intentional. Like even like the breeding of like the noble houses is like in some sense so inbred now and intentionally so that they can't even have children normally because their children will be so mutated And so, and potentially mostly stillbirth. Like he's even surprised that like this guy was even born because they're normally born stillbirth. And so that's actually why they go through this genetic chamber or incubation chamber. That's what I've been looking for, is because it's actually in that the chantry basically permits their genetics to be altered so as to remove all of these defects that they've been breeding into the noble houses, which is just like, I mean, like it's like a whole next level in terms of political control.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems to me like, and I don't think we have this information, but I don't think it's too far of a grasp. Seems like they are at war with the Cielsen because of the Chantry. It seems like they are probably the ones that have started this conflict or are really pushing this conflict. That would be my guess, just because they just seem like they're pure. They want more. They want, like you said, power. They want, in the name of Earth, they want to claim the stars, and unfortunately, the Cielsen are in the way, and they seem like they're the only race that's really able to fight back.
I think that's kind of why they need to go. Is at least this has been my takeaway from the way Rockers present it. It's like the whole sort of mantra is that like they deserve the stars because they're the ones that are technologically advanced. So to encounter another technically advanced species who is who is made advanced independent of Earth and people, it like can't be, right? It's like the antithesis.
Challenges their beliefs.
Yeah.
The words right before that quote, I don't know why I didn't include them, were "we were first," and it's such a crazy thing to like claim across the universe.
Yep, it's like their tagline, probably. We were first, and then everyone's like,
Yep.
"We were first." Yeah.
We were first. Also, Galaxy's best cup of coffee.
Yeah. Does anyone? We get a lot of mentions of Simeon the Red. I don't think there's really too much of a purpose of him other than just like he's some history and some lore, and obviously what Hadrian is aspiring to be, someone like Simeon the Red. Does anyone have any thoughts or want to just quickly? He seems like he's going to be important. I don't think we're ever going to see him in real life. I think he's dead. I can't remember if they have actually said he's dead. But I think we're going to see him.
I don't see a reference of it in the glossary either. So
he talks about him like he is in history books, basically. But
he was like one of the first people to like encounter xenobites and things like that. So.
Almost like a Darwin, esque like explorer kind of.
Yeah, more like an old Viking explorer, was it Eric? Oh my gosh, I'm gonna forget all my Vikings. Not Eric the Red.
The Great.
Hold on, I'll pull it up in a second. The one that the new Viking show is based off of.
Yeah.
I thought it was Eric. What was it?
Oh, that's the dad. No, you guys keep going.
Eric,
I'll remember in a second.
Dad.
Leif
Side
Erikson.
note,
There we go.
the Viking show is incredible.
It's
so good.
Or just Vikings?
It's not new. It's been around for
Vikings Valhalla.
several years now.
Yeah, but the original is also really good too. But Leif Erikson. That's what I was trying to get to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So like him.
Yeah. You all know.
We don't need to elaborate.
Yeah.
Everybody knows.
Vikings Valhalla. It's so good. Okay. No. Back to Vikings Valhalla in space.
Yeah. Exactly. So really, I think we've covered everything I think there's really two halves to this part, if you will, which is pre-Colosseum and Colosseum. So let's talk Colosseum. Interesting for me. Just I wasn't expecting us to get this type of part here. It makes sense though, and I liked it. So it starts with him kind of going to sign up, and there's a doctor there. Obviously a criminal. She's got the slit nose, and I think she's like freaking yadded up with all her crimes, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And
there's just like words of what she's done.
Yeah. And
I think it's not just crimes, it's also her battle tattoos. Like her tattoos from when she fought.
It wasn't her crime what's it called when you like it's not abandonment, but
I think she was a deserter.
deserter. Yeah, yep.
Yep.
But she ends up letting him in to the Colosseum without getting the blood work done. I can't remember. It's been a second since we read it. Anyone remember how or why she decides to not do blood work? Does he just tell her, or
I think it was because he just talked to her about who he actually was,
mm,
and
Yeah.
just like being honest and talking through it, she seemed to like get the message that it would be dangerous for him to do it.
mm.
And for some reason, like I don't think we fully know, like she decided to go along with it.
Yeah. So then he joins
Well, notably, like she maintains a good relationship with them moving forward too.
throughout. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then he joins, and we get a whole, very quick montage of him like coming in. Everyone's like, "Who's this guy?" And he's like, "I'm Hadrian, and I'm here to help you fight." And they're like, "No, you're not. Who are you?" And he's like, "No, trust me." And they're like, "We trust you now." And that was pretty much it. But it worked for me. I was okay with it. It happens in like a chapter, and I didn't need um, him proving himself to him. It was probably going to happen. We get to meet all the characters. I don't have all of them down because like I said, when we first meet them, I'm like, these are actually expendable people. We're probably not going to, the important ones will emerge, which I think they have, with being Switch, a young kid who, from my remembrance, was basically like a sex slave.
Specifically for nobles.
Specifically for nobles,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
So he's there, and then we've got like Polino and Saran. I think they're kind of like, they're not necessarily a couple. No, sorry, Ilara, Polino and Ilara, who are like friends. Doesn't seem like they're a couple, though, I don't think. And he's like an older. He's like the old veteran. Is Polino, and from my memory, those are kind of the three. I know there's some other ones.
Well, then there's Gen, who's the one he challenges for authority, and then
Yeah,
ultimately
Gen.
he kind of lets Gen become the leader, and then he sort of steps out of that shadow and becomes the leader himself.
Yeah, outleads the leader.
And
Mhm.
Saran was one, and Kiri. There's a couple others.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't remember, but I think what it was is that Gen and Saran are actual prisoners, to where we find out they can never leave, because doesn't he like withhold, like he's gonna buy a ship, he doesn't tell Gen and Saran, and he doesn't tell them because there's no chance they can't just leave, where Polino and Ilara and Switch, after their time is up, they can leave. So it seems like Gen and Saran are not gonna move past the Colosseum, if we ever do. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. Any thoughts on before we get into? Well, we can talk about even about the first fight. First fight is probably the longest fight we get to see, an actual Colosseum fight with some cool. Like, I love the actual Colosseum with the pillars that they like pull down, and yeah, we get to see some of Hadrian's like strategy against the soldiers, how their suits work, which I thought was awesome. I really like the way that the soldier suits work, how they almost like take them out of commission, and they simulate the pain they would feel without actually hurting them, which I thought was really cool. But fairly typical. I guess what you would expect from Colosseum. I wasn't like, wow, that's so. I mean, I thought the suits were cool, but nothing really like. I think well done. But I don't know. Does anyone have anything to add to any favorite parts? Anything that stood out?
You want to take
Not
that
for
one?
me on that section.
Yeah.
No notes. You nailed everything I was thinking.
It was very Gladiator, which was really
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Without you didn't get the whole movie. We got the fun like Maximus scene, so to speak.
Yeah,
right?
we got a good scene.
Yeah.
We find out that they also fight the Umand there, some other basically alien creatures they bring in. They duel each other, but not to the death, which is interesting.
Yeah, I guess the most interesting thing for me is the fact that early on in the book, he's there as his father's like emissary on their planet to witness this. He's like so disgusted by it that he's left, and now he's full circle like a part of it to survive and save money. So
Hmm.
I think that's the most interesting part about this part starting out.
Yeah. Um, the only other tech part I thought is cool and interesting is like the way the shields work. How it's like a shield would work against a gun, but like a sword, it's not gonna stop. So I like that there's kind of like the differentiating between
Mm.
ranged combat and close combat. It makes it more exciting. But yeah, I mean, then they basically come up with the plan. Let me check my notes, see if there's anything I want to say. We got into the Colosso fight. And then yeah, we Switch and Hadrian they all talk about buying a ship. And in order to do that, they're gonna have to work for at least a year. You have to sign up for I think a year at a time in the Colosseum. Which at that point I was like, okay, here we go. We're gonna be in here for a year. Oh, great. And then it's just like 8 months later. I'm like, hell yeah, all right. Like, I mean, that's like juicy stuff for a writer. I think it's just like we could write these badass Coliseum scenes all day, and he's just like, no, we're actually just gonna jump ahead. Like, you get the idea, which I
Well, I think that's a big part of the significance of that first battle is it sort of meant because the way I looked at it, right, especially with like Switch and the interactions with Switch, it's like you're trying to convince this guy to like that he can live like through the next battle. And then you're like, oh, but like a year from now, Switch. He's like, wait, hold on, like I'm gonna die tomorrow. Like, what are you
yeah
talking about? Like a year? But I think that's kind of like the significance of that first battle is sort of meant to tell us that like they have the camaraderie, they have the chemistry, they have the like knowledge behind Hadrian now. Like they could survive like a year, and that's essentially what happens. They become hardened over time. And Ruocchio takes several moments in that scene, talk about, oh, there's 17 of us now, oh, there's 16 of us now, oh, there's 15 of us now. And that was one of the things I took away is that we're meant to sort of get down to this like battle hardened core,
mm-hmm.
right? A few who are going to see it through to the end.
Yeah, I found it interesting. Like, the crowd loves it, right? When they win, but I'm surprised that the count is so okay. Of course he's gonna put on airs and be like, "Congratulations!" Throw money at them and shit. Like, I get that in front of your people, but like behind the scenes, you think he's like, "This is an embarrassment of our troops." Like, maybe we're gonna sway the match or anything. So I'm surprised nothing like that really happened. And it really is it's just respect the sport. Everything's good. So I was a little surprised. I liked it though. I'm glad there wasn't any of that. And we almost kind of do get some of that in a different way with what ends up happening with Hadrian being recruited.
Yeah.
But yeah, just not on the battlefield. It is truly just a respected sport, and I think Hadrian even comes to like realize and respect like Crispin a little bit more because of it. So I found that I found that pretty interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. That may play into the fact that they get paid to do it. It seems to be like there's this open invitation for people to come. So maybe there is more of a culture of like not like what we see in Gladiator of just anyone being thrown in there
Just
to just
fodder, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, maybe it's like maybe there's betting going on the back end and people know that like either side potentially could have a chance, things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was fun. Didn't overstay its welcome for me. Had a good time in the Coliseum, and then yeah, just at this point, Hadrian's like, I gotta, he's
Yeah.
thought about getting off the planet up to this point, but now it's like a possibility. It's like they're all gonna pool their money together. Ilara's and Polino are arguably on board. Switch is definitely on board. And so then an event happens in which they hear about this ship coming into orbit called the Obdurate, some legionary ship that's brought some people, some soldiers. Notably, that we find out this mercenary group called the White Horse Company. And then, assuming Chanter Gallium Vass, I think, was on that ship as well, because they've brought prisoners. We find out.
Yeah. Now we don't understand that like the special guest prisoner didn't they come from that ship?
Came from that ship. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Which I think there's a part where like Hadrian has this aha moment of like, I think there's a Cielson in the Colosseum jail. Was that like an aha moment? I don't know. As soon as we heard there's like they were on the front lines and sometimes they bring prisoners here, I was like, okay, a Cielson's gonna be here 100%. Like, so it wasn't a super big surprise.
I think for him.
Yeah, maybe for you, but like,
I think for him it's really important because that's like the
Holy Grail.
like Holy Grail, right? For him,
he's
of
always
like
been
new
drawn.
things. Yeah.
He's never, even when his dad was talking about him, he's never had that like indoctrination of they're evil and he doesn't want anything to do with them.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. So let's see. Let me go back to my notes here. So they hear about the White Horse Company, and then Hadrian tries to join them. He finds them in the street. It's kind of like, hey, which is an interesting moment, right? Because right now the plan is they're going to all pool their money, save up, go off world together. They're going to buy a ship together. They will be crewmates, whatever, and they're going to go off together. Now he hears about this mercenary company, and he's immediately just, first time he sees them, are you hiring? Are you hiring? Because this is another way out for him, which is like, come on, bro. Like, what about your family? Which, to be fair, he does have that, like, family, Fast and Furious moment, like, later. He doesn't have it just yet. But I did find that interesting. He was that quick to just be like, fuck them. Like, I'm going to go do what I need to do. Which, yeah, I just found that interesting. But then we also get our first encounter with Chanter Gallium Vast, the Intus. And he sucks.
Yep.
He's a piece of crap. I don't know, like almost like hunchback and just like just exactly what you'd think of like this old, like not old, but just like power hungry priest kind of guy.
He's just like deformed and takes it out on everybody else, basically.
Yeah, bitter about it. Yeah. He's a bastard.
Essentially, like it's sort of like meant to be implied that he's sort of allowed to live. He's saying it that way, but sort of how it is because he's not supposed to be alive. That's not supposed to happen.
It is really
he's like the bastard son of a noble, and this is what happens when nobles have children that they're not cleared to have by the chantry. He's sort of permitted to live because he's so like aggressive and abusive. He just sort of he does these things that serves a purpose for them, right? Yeah.
Do you think when they say so he is they call him a bastard child of a noble? Do we think that means like actual, like, let's say like a man, a noble just has sex with like someone, just a random peasant or whatever, or it's just any, like, let's say they're married, two nobles, and they just have a child without the influence of the chantry? Was that also considered like a bastard child to the chantry?
I think both would be considered in this culture. I think in this particular case, it seemed implied that this was like an individual that was probably born to like a concubine or someone who was like in Switch's position. But I think for their culture, I think both would be.
Yeah. I'm curious to see if we'll ever find out if it matters or if we, if we ever find out. Maybe he's the son of the emperor, and that's why he's been like, hey, who knows? Yeah. It does seem like he's going to be an important character, and I definitely think we'll be seeing him again.
Yeah, so
I think it's going to come back around. You gotta lock it in. If I say it for every character, we'll never see any of them again.
I could definitely see him being a big part of Hadrian's like next split, right? Because the where Hadrian ends up, at the end of this part, he's obviously not going to stay there. I could see Gallium Vast kind of being a pivotal character, and why Hadrian goes where he goes next. Or maybe not. Maybe he's not. His job as an antagonist has already been served, and we move on. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I think he's gonna be back. He's gotta be back. He's got to. So after this, this is when Hadrian kind of intuits to himself that they are holding a Cielson in a jail somewhere. I think specifically the Colosseum jail. He gets knocked
Yeah, like their
out.
dungeons.
Yeah, they're dungeons, which I didn't think of at the time anything. I just thought, like, that's weird. Kind of a weird reason. Like, there's multiple jails, but he's being held in the. Maybe there's not like a cell big enough in a normal one, but I didn't really think about or stop to think about why they were holding the Cielson in the specifically Colosseum jail. I think I was just. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really think about it, but we do find out later why. But the next scene that happens is arguably one that's going to have some consequence going forward, and that is the one where Hadrian and Switch go to buy a ship, and Hadrian basically reveals to the merchant or whatever that he is royalty, basically offering to sell land back home on Delos. And this is obviously important because Switch does not know who Hadrian really is.
Yeah.
And this is a pretty big betrayal to Switch.
Friend fight.
What's that?
Friend fight.
Friend fight, yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's got every right to be pissed.
Yeah.
Especially with Switch's past of, like, the people that have abused him the most are nobles. Yeah. And Hadrian's just been lying to him this whole time. And we never really get their resolution in this part. Switch he's still angry with them. But this is really, I think, the last time we actually see them together on page. From here on out, he's just talking to Polino and them, and they talk about Switch, but I don't think Switch is ever in it again at this point.
There's one more time. There's sort of an awkward tension, and then it dissipates. Okay. Switch is like, getting schmoozy with one of the recruits.
With one of the
new recruits.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, with one of the because Hadrian's training one of the new recruits and like kind of taking out his frustration on the recruit, and then he gets scolded, and then we have a scene where they all kind of come up and they're going to talk about going for dinner, and then Switch and one of these recruits basically decline to go. Yeah, to go. Shower separately, I would assume. As should be expected, as is traditional.
Yeah.
Traditional.
So, yeah. Then after this, basically, this is also the scene in which Hadrian realizes family. This is my new family. Basically, he's found family in the Myrmidons. Actually cares about them, assuming that he actually does. But it does seem like it to me, like he realizes that these are his people, and it does genuinely care for them and care about what happens to them. And so I don't know if it was the fight with Switch that made him realize it, but he does just have this kind of realization.
And I don't, and I might have misinterpreted as well, but one of the things that it seemed to me was that notion of family was a bit stronger in hindsight. And because there was like the talk about how
I see
what he realized was that they were acting out of a sense of concern, genuine concern, like a family would. And so there is a hindsight bias coming in from the narrator here, looking back. And so I do think that Hadrian recognizes the kinship he has and the camaraderie he has with the people he's been fighting in the arena with. I mean, how could he not? But I think I wanted to, go ahead and say too that like there is I think that element of hindsight bias. So that might also explain why, for example, he's very motivated to go for a ship still, or like looking at looking at possibly leaving because he's going to join the White Horse Company or something like that. Where I think in the moment he's only becoming more cognizant of it. But it doesn't have as strong of an opinion on it at that time. He's still pretty much like kind of in his own head and dealing with the loss of Cat, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jones, anything you want to add before we move on to kind of the final stretch?
Yep, I think I'm good. Thanks.
Okay. So then Hadrian decides, fuck my family. I'm gonna go I'm gonna go break into this jail cell and go see a Cielson for myself.
He
Now,
can't resist the call.
yeah, he can't resist the call. So yeah, he does.
His
He kind
language
of
skills are on the tip of his tongue.
the what?
His language skills are just on the tip of his tongue.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool. We gotta get to see him flaunt his skills and sneak his way into, and not just obviously not just sneaking, but lie his way into the dungeon, and then he sees a Cielson for the first time, and we kind of get the description, and I wrote down his name, Makisomn. I don't know how they say it in the book, but
Yeah.
Makisomn, who we find out is to be killed for the Count's son's ephebia or something like that.
Like coming of age thing.
Yeah, basically this
Yeah,
coming of age
yeah.
celebration. They're going to kill off this Cielson, maybe in the Colosseum. I mean, I think that's to be presumed.
Presumably, yeah.
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 But
Which probably makes more sense why he's being jailed there.
kept in exactly. Yep. And he basically lies to the two guards there, saying who he is, and I think they buy into it for a second, and then they just basically stun him. So he gets to talks to the Cielson a little bit, and I think I can't remember the conversation exactly, but he at some point either he tells the Cielson he's going to die, or the Cielson knows he's going to die and tells Hadrian. Does anyone remember exactly how that conversation
Yeah, so he
goes?
essentially asks Hadrian what's going to happen to him, and Hadrian says he tells him the truth. He says you're going to die, and then he asks how will I die, and Hadrian just responds not
Badly,
well.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't. Is the Cielson surprised? I know the guards are probably surprised, but is the Cielson surprised that Hadrian can speak his language?
I mean, sort of, but the way that he approaches it is to sort of comment on how Hadrian speaks. He says, you speak like a child would, and that's we already know what that means. At least at this time, maybe this might change in the future, but Hadrian doesn't have the ability to speak all the sounds that they do. And so that's why he says you speak like a child would, because their children also don't have the ability to make those sounds. They learn that over time. But Hadrian may not genetically be he may not have the physical anatomy, because apparently they make a lot of noises with their nose. He may not have the ability to, or he might get the ability to. It might be a muscle thing that he can learn how to do. But yeah, that was kind of a neat little tidbit about their language.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was cool. It's nice that it's fun to follow a character whose strength is not their strength. So that's fun. I like that language is really going to be his superpower, presumably for the majority of this, or at least maybe the conduit to him getting there. But anyway, so he gets stunned. He gets brought before the Count Mataro. We kind of get the truth. And the first of which is, how long has it been since since he left Delos? And I kind of almost I don't know if you guys had this experience, but for me, I didn't write it off. I wasn't I'm never thinking about that, but I kind of was just we're not going to know for who long, however long. I don't really care. But then when we do find out, it is it was a shock. It was a fun shock. It was nice that it held it for so long. I thought the payoff was good.
That's one of my questions for you guys is why do you think Hadrian didn't make more of an effort to find out? And it feels interesting to me, right? We're on a world somewhat similar to ours, right? Advanced technology, but supposedly more advanced. And it just was very bewildering to me, to the point that I mentioned to you, Matt, that I thought maybe I missed earlier in the section of the time being revealed, but just seems so unique to me that I feel like we're surrounded by calendars and news constantly that it just feels impossible for me to not know what year it is or time it is. So I thought that was a really interesting part. Just wanted to see what you guys thought.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's interesting too. I think it comes down to maybe, I guess, priorities. But like, real, it is a little weird that like he talked to dock workers, he talked to the White Horse Company. Like, he wouldn't just casually be like, "Oh yeah, by the way, what year is it?" And like, maybe he didn't want to come off as suspicious, because obviously that would, if you're
Yeah.
talking to a mercenary group, you're like, "What year is it again?" They'd be like, what do you mean, what year is it? But it's been so by about 3 years, right, that he's been on this
Yeah.
planet. It is a little like questionable that he's somehow just not seen it. But yeah, I think you're right. Maybe it is just in this. There aren't calendars up and stuff, and I'm trying to think of like what it
Yeah, or
would
he's
be
just
like.
so much like living on the streets and then the Coliseo that like he just
Well,
purposely like chose areas or paths to not see that.
Yeah, and I think at that
well,
point it
so
doesn't
so
really.
notably, like time does pass differently on different planets. So he's well aware
That's
of the
true.
time, like the entire time he's there, even from when he first got resuscitated. Like he's very aware of what time it is in a mesh years,
Mm-hmm.
but he just doesn't know. Like the mesh years don't track with standard years, so he just doesn't know like how to translate between a mesh time and his time.
Mm.
So like he
That
knows like
is true
what
because
year, like what month, what day, and like how long a year is on a mesh, but he doesn't like know what the base is, right? Because their years could be like 200 days, and every day could be like 36 hours.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
there's still like also like gravity, like just because it might take that long, like one, if they went 365 days on a match, that could actually be 500 days back on Delos, an equivalent time, because time works differently, time
Mhm.
dilates differently on different places. That's why they have
yeah,
that concept like standard years.
Yeah.
And Rockio kept trying to reinforce how like basically no one keeps track of standard years unless unless you travel between planets. But I also agree with you. I think ultimately, if you're asking me, I'll give my jaded opinion, which is it's a plot device. Like that just it seemed like with the amount of time and with Hadrian's knowledge, and the fact that it bears consequence for him, like pretty significant consequence. It's a plot. Like for me, it just felt like a plot device.
Mm-hmm.
He can't go ask any random stranger what year it is, and I would buy that. Like especially as he starts to gain more fame, and he talks consistently about the freedom that the Myrmidons have comparatively. I think like at any point he could have just gone up to like a dock worker and be like, "Hey,
yeah,
what's the standard year?" And actually, because of the fact that like most people do not know the standard year, it actually would not come off as weird.
Mm. Yeah, that's fair.
Right? Yeah.
I
So
mean, I
yeah.
think
Or
that's
I
kind of how
just
I
agree.
took it.
stop by the local internet cafe.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
check it out really
Yeah.
quick.
I think the
Well,
thing
he
for
did
me
say
is
he
like
can't do that.
he can't do.
Yeah, he can't go to like internet cafe. He did say that in order to access like a terminal that would give him to the network, that he has to
The new
submit
blood.
blood. Yeah.
Mm, yeah.
Damn, the
Which,
stupid
yeah.
blood.
I mean, I think
Yes. Yes,
for me,
blood.
right, because we're like creating these like false parts. Um, I think in the large scheme of things, we find out this information in 150 pages, so it's not like Rockio's withholding it forever,
Yeah, yeah,
just because it does feel like it came at the end of this part for us. But yeah, I think that maybe that's why it didn't bother me that much. It was a fun reveal. It doesn't feel like there's not enough time that's passed to where it's like huge consequence. It's not like 150 years have passed or anything.
yeah,
And we don't even know. Like, it's obviously a surprise for him because he just didn't know. He just didn't have any idea. But I'm curious to
yeah,
see going forward what thoughts he has of like, well, this obviously has happened, or he probably has more knowledge of that than we do. Of just like, what does that mean for Delos, and what does that mean for his parents, and that kind of
yeah.
thing.
I think the other interesting part with the count revealing that is I, I can't remember if it's just in Hadrian's head of how much time had passed, but the count doesn't seem to have like any initial reaction of like, oh, like something like your dad's dead or your brother's in charge now. So like he may be playing poker and may know something, but I thought it was interesting that nothing like that happened either in their interaction.
Yeah. Well, I could be mistaken. I can't remember. Does the Count know? Count doesn't know who he is, though, right? Exactly, or does he?
Does.
He
No,
does.
he does.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knows
Okay.
He
everything.
fully admitted everything
'Cause
to him and knows who
yeah,
his
'cause
family is and everything, right?
yeah, he can decipher the ring, and the ring has like his entire genetic history going back generations. He knows
But
like
I mean, like
everything.
before he's captured, though.
No, I don't know.
It's like post capture
Yeah.
that's all revealed.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
only once they
yeah.
get his ring.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, captured, brought before Count Mataro, finds out how long it's been, and then basically we find out that he's almost going to be held captive as a tutor in language, specifically for the Count's son and daughter, Anais and Dorian Mataro. And yeah, basically he's just going to, against his will, pulled out of the Colosseum, pulled out of the Myrmidons, effective immediately, and going to become a tutor. And then really the very last chapter we get, so that would have been like the yeah. And then we get one more chapter in which, I mean, come on, Jonesy, come on, a little more foresight, come on. We just get one chapter with the three of them interacting, and then it's somewhat friendly way. I think Anais is a little standoffish at first. The son seems like a pretty cool dude. Reminds him a little of Crispin, and then they become friendly, and they basically invite him out to party. I don't know if it's the party. I can't remember, but they invite him. I think. They invite him to the Colosso, which is kind of a bit of a cliffhanger in itself because, like, I mean, they made it a point to say that Hadrian looked up and could see in the box who was sitting there, to the point where like he even recognized like the sitting posture of the brother. So like, this ain't gonna look good to Switch. It is not gonna, to everybody, but especially Switch. This is not going to look good because he can't even go down there and tell him what's happened. So yeah, I do think it's interesting. But yeah, it almost feels like we are, going into a part 3 of like, all right, we're starting again. Here we go. But any thoughts on that very last part before we just kind of talk about our just generally what we liked, what we didn't like, and predictions about the future?
I will say that I really enjoyed the contrast of the nobility, but also I like what we see like in the dynamic between the three characters, because you get this idea of like they are like probing each other, like they're right like the son makes intentional mistakes in the way he says Judian, for example. But so like there's this banter, but we get this sort of interesting element to where the banter is very playful, and like it's not like I'm trying to out you, or I'm trying to figure out how to go behind your back, or I'm because like that's kind of what we're meant to understand, especially with where Hadrian has come from with his family, is that everything's very deceitful, everything's very conniving, everything is very much a scheme. But this is a lot more like young noble social politic of just them, trying to jest at each other and probe at each other because it's a game. And it's fun, right? And it's a fun way to test each other. And Hadrian actually like seems to enjoy it for the most part. He gets to a point where he gets pretty exhausted with like putting on the mask, as he puts it. But I did kind of enjoy the dynamic, because like it's meant to show us that this is a different kind of noble family. I thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah. He's back in his environment that he's used to.
But importantly, he's in his environment in a way that he kind of wanted to sign up for.
Yeah.
He wanted
almost
to be a
like a
scholiast.
scholiast, yeah. And he even takes the name Hadrian Gibson in honor of Gibson, which I like that.
Yeah.
That was cool. I do find it a little funny that he's like, "You're gonna have to change your name, son." He's like, Hadrian, same first name.
Looks at the newspaper.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
Outfire.
yeah. I was expecting him to change his first name, maybe, but I don't know. I thought that was funny. Like, you think that his dad, if he heard the news of this new person named Hadrian Gibson, you think his dad would? He'd be like, "Wow, interesting name." Like, come on.
I didn't know Gibson had a child.
Yeah.
Like,
I thought it was a funny name. It's nice. I appreciate the gesture, but yeah, it's like the Family Guy Peter Griffin thing. Have you guys seen that? He's
one.
like someone, I can't remember what it is, but basically they're like, "What's your name?" And he goes, he looks down on his plate and he's eating peas and he goes, "Pea," and then he looks across the restaurant and someone's crying. He goes, "Tear," and then there's a griffin fly by and he goes, "Griffin." It's just like his exact name. It's great. That's kind of where it reminded me of. Yeah. So yeah. Let's talk about our likes and dislikes. We'll talk about our predictions and we'll wrap it up. So, does anyone want to take the lead? Just hit us with all of your dislikes and then all of your likes or whatever. Just do both and then we'll kind of round table it.
Right. You want me to go first since I'm the lukewarm guy?
The hater.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm the hater. Okay.
We'll go kind of
So
clockwise.
I'll just go ahead and start with like you know, when I criticize something, I know that sometimes it can always come off as like, oh, you didn't enjoy it, or like, oh, you don't want to read it, which is certainly not true. I think that there's a way in which I can appreciate this part, and there's certainly things I appreciate about this part that make me want to keep reading it. Even though I really didn't, I was pretty lukewarm on the part overall. I think thematically there are a lot of really cool things that are happening in this part. We're seeing a lot of development in the lore interesting way. I think it's starting to distinguish itself from Dune, importantly, and there's a reason why I mentioned that. But I think it's very important for Hadrian's character that we recognize that the only way for him to succeed is for him to go back to being who he was born to be. That he can't make it on the streets of Amesh on his own. And that notably his way out of surviving his escape from his dad is to go back and do the things that his dad essentially wanted for him from the beginning, right? That he finds himself back in the Coliseo. He finds himself fighting amongst the Myrmidons, which is the exact same thing he criticized Crispin for. And one of the big fights he had with his dad was over the Coliseo and the fact that he left it. Now he's fighting in it. And that he is using his political influence, or seeming so, with his ring to try to swindle people or get one over on them. That's the constant thing he relies on to get by. And that ultimately, right, he's back with nobility and using his gift of languages and things like this. Like he's constantly relying on the tools he was given from his birth, rather than learning new tools. And I think that's really important in sort of the development of his character. And I really appreciate how that's going. And I think that does make it really interesting. We kind of get this character he's like on a Ferris wheel in a way. He keeps coming back around. And so I am really curious to see how that goes forward. I really liked the interaction with Kat. I think that Kat was one of the characters that had the most complexity in this particular part, and I really liked how that reflected off of him. I actually don't think that there needed to be romance at all. I think it would have been totally fine if she was more just like a sister figure.
I would even
frankly,
argue
like,
it would be better.
would be better, right? Actually, for her age, it would be, and like that age mixed with a sister figure would have been better, because Hadrian didn't have a sister, right? Which is like another notable thing, right? And so like for her, like a sisterly figure who also is like, like if I had a sister, she would have lived to be 700. Here's this girl who can't even live past 19, right? And so I think that there's a lot of power in those statements. The main things I don't like is there is, this is probably, again, is not fair to say, but I do feel like it's too often that we fall back into common tropes from pop culture to move our character along. It's just like we have a character sort of starts out in a very like Dune-like fashion, and then we sort of get off planet, and then we fall into like another trope with like the prince who is among the poor, and then we have Kat, and then she dies, and then we're now like he goes into the Coliseo, and so now we get like a gladiator pop culture. So it's like we're Dune, then we're Aladdin, and then we're Gladiator, and granted, like at some point you're always repeating Shakespeare, but there does seem to be a lot of like really popular film and really popular books that are just mostly film they're kind of being brought up consistently as sort of a backdrop for what's happening. And really, that's not as big of a deal, but I do feel like we're still, in a way, kind of being dragged along. Like, it just seems like whenever something needs to change, there's just a convenient plot device to just push it along. And I don't know if it's like the frame narrative that's making it seem that way. It just always seems really convenient that there's just another thing to like push us to the next spot and then push us to the next spot and then push us to the next spot, rather than feeling like Hadrian's own actions are sort of developing into this. It just still feels like things kind of keep happening to him to then push him to the next spot. And now, to be fair, that this could be just the setup for a story where, I mean, obviously he's going to become someone who's sort of forging his destiny, but still just feels like we're kind of being pushed along. And that's this part ultimately as a whole, because of that, kind of felt like a one big plot device. We got to move Hadrian from previous noble family to like next thing. And so yeah, so it just kind of struck lukewarm for me because of that.
Well, you're out of the group.
Yeah, that's fair. Oh, the chantry!
Yeah.
He's questioning Earth. Get it out
All
of
the
here.
chantry.
John, do you want to go? You want me to go?
Yeah, I can go. It's always tough to follow Ian, but I liked everything that you shared. Overall, I think, yeah, I'm excited to continue the journey. I guess thinking about it, there's not any like crazy mind-blowing thing that happened, but I felt like it was all done well enough for me to continue to enjoy the journey. I will say a couple parts, not because of the writing or anything, just personal preference, just kind of dragged a little bit for me, like when they were trying to steal the fish or whatever. Felt like it dragged a little. I think the one thing that felt a little for me the most from the section was him being taken by the count. I guess I just didn't feel that he was doing anything too like bad or devious, sneaking to see I guess saying it out loud, maybe it sounds silly, but it, since he wasn't a slave, it didn't feel like he was doing anything too crazy. But I guess sneaking around drew enough attention. But that just felt a little abrupt to me for him to have just been snatched up by him, and then now he has to transition to this new part of life. But yeah, overall, I'm excited to continue to see what happens and where it goes. And yeah, that's my thoughts.
Nice. Yeah. I'll probably echo some of the things both of you said. But overall, I liked it. I thought the part was good. I think it's also important that we reiterate, these are not true, real parts that the author said this is a stopping point, like a wrapping up a part. So there are going to be times where something might give us a lot of clarity in the very next chapter that we wouldn't otherwise have when naturally reading it, because we've just created these parts. So I think that's important that everyone understands that that's just going to happen the way we're doing this, to break it into parts, that sometimes things won't work for us because of that, because it's hard. It's just hard to take your mind out of that mindset of like, the author didn't tell me this was like a wrapped part. We are just saying that it is. So anyways, with that being said, I'll start with my dislikes as well. I already ranted about the cat relationship thing and her age. Stop it. I hope, I mean, like, especially now that Hadrian's older, for the love of God, I hope that's the end of it. I don't mind relationship, but like, let's just age him up. There's zero reason to not. But then, yeah, like you said, I think it would just been better as there can exist a deep love without it being romantic. That's possible. It's believable, arguably better, especially in this situation. So yeah, the whole cat thing, and it's frustrating because that's also one of my likes. I loved Cat. So it just like put a sour taste in my mouth to this beginning of their relationship. Two other dislikes, not really dislikes, but it did kind of feel like starting over again. Like we finally got off the planet, and then it just felt like we are at the start of another book. Not too big of a deal, but like you guys said, I think pacing wise, it kind of felt a little strange. I'm used to meandering. I love Stephen King, so He's like the king of meandering, and so I'm okay with it as long as it's well written. I think this is mostly well written. I think Hadrian's really well written. I do think the surrounding characters are a little one dimensional, with the exception of Kat. So I think that's why I liked her part so much. When she got to the Colosseum, I did find myself being like, I don't really know who's important, or I don't know who I need to care about other than Hadrian. And then the other dislike is the old crew being gone. Not really, that's just a personal preference. Like, man, it felt like we just got to know them so well, which I think is arguably a pro as well. Like, he just, in that moment, he wrote really not one-dimensional characters that I was invested in learning more about. And to me, that's a sign of a good character that he did in such a short amount of time that I'm sad we didn't get to spend more time with them. But maybe we will. Likes overall, I like that we skip a lot of the action that could have been drawn out. Thinking about the Colosseum, he was there for a year. That could have been the rest of this book. I'm glad that it wasn't. I thought the suspense of the time passage reveal was a pro for me. I liked it. It was fun. That we got, again, I don't know we don't really know the consequences of it too much yet, but I liked that he got it in that conversation. I thought it was fun. I like that secrets aren't withheld forever. I think there are, Switch found out about his royal nobility not 7 books into the series, and it was like this huge reveal. He finds out after not too much time. And then I also like how scary the Chantry is. They're just they're the worst. I also there was one thing in the previous part that I mentioned on, which was like the quote unquote pretentiousness of some of the writing. You brought up they talk about at some point they talked about the Spaniards. There's a couple moments in this where I was just like, all right, how far in the future are we? Are they really still talking about, he's like quoting philosophers and stuff from like our time. And it felt more like Christopher Ruocchio in a philosophy class saying, I just learned this. I want to put that in my book. And just be like, well, Hadrian's, quoting Galileo. And I'm just like, would he be though? Like this far into the future, like, would we be? I don't necessarily think so. I think there's probably plenty of people from our time till then that have more important things to say. So it feels more like an authorial insert to me than it does like a natural Hadrian thought. And so I don't really like that. It's not that big of a deal, but it does lend itself to be a little that pretentiousness a little bit of just like, look how smart I am. And I don't love it, but overall, like the part. I'm very excited I really like the part. I mean, I'm just liking it as a whole a lot. So if it sounds like I'm being negative, it's just because I like it and I want to be harsh. Yeah, let's get into our predictions. Does anyone?
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
The last thing I was going to say was I do feel like I'm starting to see one of Christopher Ruocchio's strengths, but I don't know if we've gone over this, but like he has other books, right? Like before Empire of Silence, or did he not?
No, I think he wrote this when he was like 19 or 20, okay. 22. It says it.
Yep.
This was his first. Well, actually, I guess I don't know, but I think this is his first like published.
Because like I could definitely see that. I mean, like any writer has a lot to work on, but I will say that I've started to notice one of his strengths, and it really came up like in the last scene when he's meeting with the Mataros. That I think is a really cool strength as a writer, and probably one that's a little bit more subtle is he has a very great way of introducing how Hadrian's background contrasts with his choices. And so I really like the fact that like him and Switch are fighting over, and in Hadrian's mind, this concept of like who has a monopoly on suffering. Right, Switch, you don't have a monopoly on suffering. Just because these things happen to you doesn't mean, right? It's like, just because you don't feel like you have a choice to be here, and I'm noble, I don't have a choice either. But then yet, like one of the things that's being highlighted, right, is like the moment that Hadrian gets into this precarious situation, now all of a sudden that whole precarious situation doesn't end up being killed, but instead him being elevated into the castle, which is completely a consequence of, partly a consequence of his own work. I mean, him being a linguist and stuff, but like, again, it's also consequence of who he is as noble. So there's like this contradiction that exists with him, and like that he hasn't really challenged yet, right? He sort of still believes that he doesn't stand apart from others just because of who he was born to be, when that's very evident in their culture that that's exactly how it works. Um, so
Yep.
I really like that part of his writing, and I am excited to see how more of that will get drawn out.
Yeah, I agree. I think Hadrian's a really, really well written, like nuanced character. I would like to see that more in some other characters, which we got a little bit. We got taste with Cat, which, to be fair, who knows where this is in like the large scheme of things. We might. Oh well, let's talk about the predictions, because I think there is a possibility. Right, we don't really. I think we'll see the Myrmidons again from Hadrian's point of view up top, but there's a chance we never talk to them again, based off of what Ruocchio's already done. I don't know if I think that's true, but does anyone want to start, or do we want to go reverse what we just did?
Sure.
All right, here are my predictions.
Okay.
In the next however many chapters, well, let's say what the chapters are that we're gonna read.
Yeah. What are the chapters?
So we'll be reading
45,
chapters
63.
45 through 63. Yep, 45 through 63. And so I think in that time, or I guess maybe not, in the future we are going to. Well, yeah, I'm going to say in that time. Otherwise, this is a dumb prediction. We leave Emesh because, of course, we will at some point. But I think maybe in the next part, or by the end of this book, at the very least, we leave Emesh. I don't think Makisom the Seosin makes it off, but provides Hadrian with something to get him to put him on the path into the good graces of the Seosin. I actually think Old Crow and Cepha, the medic, I think they leave Emesh with Hadrian. I think at least one of the Mataro children go with them. Why does it say somebody? What is this? I think I was in the middle of right. Oh, yeah, this is what it was. I just put somebody from Medjua. No, I think somebody from Medjua starts to basically hunt them or track them down. Is my other one. There you go. You write them. Almost like a bounty hunter or something. That is now we've got a pursuing party, either from Medjua or hired from his father or something. And so I think it's important that the biggest reason why I think Cepha and Old Crow have to be on the ship when they leave is because if we don't have them, then the ship will be Cephaless. So,
Wow.
you're welcome.
Brilliant.
Good night.
Oh, that's it, everybody. Yeah, that's all we need. We got all
Yeah.
the predictions right there.
Yeah. It was right there. I had to take it. I do really think she's going, but then I was like, that's a funny joke, Matt. That's a funny joke. All right, Josh. What you got? Follow that up. That's comedy gold. That's comedy
You guys
gold.
are tough. Not just the joke, but the depth of thought you've put into predictions that I was ill prepared to come with again today.
We've done Malazan, so I think it's one of those that as we do more and more of these, it will start to like.
Yeah. I just need to consciously think about it. I'm so like, I've been traumatized too many times going to the movies with Kelsey, where I love being in ignorant bliss. Obviously, I see some things coming sometimes, but I love just blissfully being in the moment. And she cannot resist. She has to put out in the universe that she's predicted it. So she'll like reach over, whisper to me in the ear, like, this is going to happen or that's going to happen. And then when it happens, I'm like, God damn it. Why did you ruin this moment for me? So I just like don't ever naturally think about predictions.
Hey,
so I just need to change my mindset.
You're also more than welcome when we do this to tune out for this if you don't like that. Not everyone likes that, so I think that's why we do it at the end.
I like hearing it because I think it's less likely to like guess the whole experience when we're talking about like a whole book like this is different than like Like, oh, this person's about to die, and I'm like, oh my god, how did you know? Like,
Yeah.
I'm just picturing you and Kelsey just like eating like a big bucket of popcorn at a movie theater and just like you're sharing a bucket of popcorn, you get to the bottom and there's just like a note. And you like open it.
she does magic tricks for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the prediction. I genuinely don't think I have any predictions.
You're just along
I'm
for the
just
ride.
enjoying the journey
Yeah,
right now.
that's totally
Mhm.
cool. Nothing wrong
Hit
with
me with it,
that.
Ian.
Yeah, so I think that the I'm just gonna call it because we sort of saw Gibson get lashed and then we leave Delos, but I think that the Mesh story is going to end with this Yeltsin in the ring. And I think that this is ultimately going to cause a break between, between Hadrian and the Mataro family. Because, I mean, it's supposed to be like 5 months from now, but I think, being born on the 21st birthday, I think that's going to be pretty significant. I think that's kind of what's going to vault us out of, like, away from the planet. Is going to be that particular fight. I don't think this Yeltsin makes it. I also would not be surprised if like a Mataro dies in the same instance, or if it's actually Hadrian that has to fight this Yeltsin because we're kind of thinking about it as like the son is going to fight this Yeltsin, but he didn't say that. He
I
didn't
actually
say
wasn't.
that like
Yeah, I don't know why. I just
yeah,
thought it was like for his viewing pleasure, like
yeah, yeah. That's what I'm thinking is like because like you'll see in like a lot of different setups, especially with like Roman gladiators, where it's like, oh, it's their birthdays, so they'll like fight against this person, or like we saw with kind of like Crispin, like we kind of expect that, right? Could like give him glory, make him a hero. But I would not be surprised if all of a sudden we find Hadrian in the ring
Mm.
with this Cielsen, and Hadrian's like ultimately forced to choose between one of the two of them or something like that. And that could be like how he sort of gets to know the culture. But yeah, or ultimately what makes a break with the family. I think the Cielsen. I'll just go and say my prediction is I think Hadrian has to fight the Cielsen in the ring for one reason or another. And I think that we are, of course, going to leave a mesh. I think that it's possible, but unlikely that he leaves the mesh without his family knowing. I think the 35 years is going to prove less significant than it seems, but I'm also thinking that it's enough time that Hadrian will probably stop worrying about the repercussions for his own mother. And I do think that was my last prediction was going to be that I do think that Hadrian ultimately does not head to Two Crows. I think that now it's going to be something where he's going to attach himself to either something that Old Crow is associated with or like the White Horse Company. But I think it's clear that we're not going to Two Crows. I think we're going to be somewhere else. Maybe to the Pale, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, real quick, while we're just talking about predictions, just to kind of expand on what you were talking about, Jonesy. There's this thing that I've seen on like in the booktube culture, where people will predict things, and if they're right, it's because the author wasn't good enough at writing a plot point.
Yeah,
And
and that it
like,
wasn't a good book.
yeah, it's the silliest thing. That's not what this is. We just do it for fun. If I'm literally, I mean, it's like I'm throwing a dart. There's no, if there's good enough foreshadowing, then that's just because the author did a good job at foreshadowing, and then, that led to me thinking something. But like, I've just never understood that. I'm just someone that likes to think about like what could happen. That'd be cool if this happened, or it'd be cool if this happened. I'm just throwing a dart, and if it's right, I'm not like, oh, that sucks. What a terrible author! Like, what a horrible book. I was right. Pfft. Look, I don't know. It's just such a funny thing to me. So I guess for anyone out there, we're not predicting things so that if we're right, we can dunk on the book.
As a gotcha moment.
Yeah, it's just it's just like
that's really weird.
It's very strange.
It's very strange. It's like I have this prediction of how things are going to go, and it seems really cool. So I'm going to keep reading the book because it seems really cool. And then you realize you were true, and you're like, "Oh, this was crap." It's like you read the book because of that prediction. Like it was good.
You see all the time, like, guess what was going to happen in the first 2 chapters? Book sucks. Like, who cares? To me, like, when you look at like media and stuff, the same story is being told, like what hero's journey, right? Or stranger in a
Yeah.
strange place. It happens all the time. And so if you're like, I bet this is stranger in a strange place. Sucks. I knew it. 10 minutes into the movie, I knew it was a stranger in a strange place. No, it's like, is the execution there? Did you pull it off? I don't care what you do. You could do. We talked about this with the Devils, like the change in setting in history. Is it the most original thing I've ever read, or even close? No. Did he do it well? Yes. And to me, that's what's important. It's like you can set up predictable stuff. Or not, just do. I don't care as long as you succeed in executing what you set out to do. That's the important part to me, at least as a reader. So yeah, I want to put that out there because I know there are some people who are probably new to us as whatever we are, gods. I mean, whatever. I mean,
Gods of Vomit.
Gods of Vomit, the Barf Bros.
Well, hopefully people know from our name that we're not here to dunk on any authors. We just appreciate the, amazing work that they're putting into the storytelling.
Yes, as the guy didn't even like the part.
Yeah, I know, right? See, the thing, Matt, is that the true sign of content is grabbing a really popular book and then predicting your own DNF ahead of time.
I'll pull out the Sandersons. I'll do it. No, yeah, okay. Anything else before we? So yeah, like we said, the next chapters are something to 64, 45 to 64.
Yeah, we have it written down right here. So we'll just do one quick reminder. Yeah, you got it, Jonesy?
He's frozen.
Oh no!
He hit the 2-hour cap.
45 to 63.
45 to 63. So this should be up. If you're watching this, it will be a Wednesday. And then hopefully, I think our plan is in 2 weeks from then. I know we extended it a little bit for this one, but we're going to try and get on the 2-week cycle.
Yeah.
And then, so the next one should be out in about 2 weeks. Any closing thoughts, anyone?
I was going to say is hopefully, if all things goes well, we will have this one done, and then we will have we'll do like a barf review afterwards, like I know what we were doing with Malazan. Then we'll have Memories of Ice done with Malazan, and that'll kind of be leading us into Christmas, which will be really cool. We'll have like a little break there. Right now I'm expecting that we'll probably be going for a book number 2 on Sun Eater.
I thought you were about to announce other news that you were expecting again.
Yeah, unless something changes significantly, I want to, as of right now, gut feeling, I definitely want to continue the series. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm having a great time. I think this is a perfect series to I'm having a great time chatting about it. I know we went a little bit long in this one, so we'll probably shorten it up a little bit for the next part. But it's been fun to chat about. So
yeah.
But with Christmas coming up, if anybody has a recommendation on like a one-off novel, like not a series, but like a standalone, I would certainly be interested in some suggestions for standalone stuff.
Stephen King. Nothing says Christmas like Stephen King. I mean, he bleeds Christmas. Wholesome, family, fireplace, chestnuts. I mean,
and everybody dies.
And then everyone dies. No, I think that could be fun. But yeah, let's Ian, sign us off. I call on you.
Okay. Well, again, to everybody who's watching, whether you're a veteran or not, thank you very much. Just know that we ultimately just appreciate having you here, joining us for the ride. We just really do this because we love talking about the books that we read, and it makes them so much more fun. And your comments make it great. And if you're here this new, then awesome. Like that's really like for us, that's just what we enjoy. So hopefully we'll see you for some future ones. But until then, this has been Hobby Vomit. My name is Ian, and we have on my somewhere with a hat, with the hat forwards, with the hat backwards.
Oh dang it!
Hat forwards.
Hey, you forgot your hat. Come on, Ian. I'm Matt, and Jonesy, and Ian,
and Jonesy.
All right.
And so yeah.
See you next time.
And we are
Hobby Vomit.
Hobby Vomit. Okay.